Cisco 49 is deep in the heart. Like Joe Montana in the corner, D. Clark. Garrison Hurst, stiff farm going 99. Don't get it twisted, one and all with prime time. John Taylor, Jerry Rice down the side.
Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of the 49er Faithful UK show. Unfortunately, tonight you're stuck with me, not Gareth. Gareth has jetted off to the sun, so he's going to be lying on a beach somewhere listening to this podcast as soon as we get it published. But tonight I am joined by the terrible twosome, Paul Hope.
What's up, everybody?
And Nadgy Paul.
Hello, everyone.
You know, it's ages since I've said Nadgy Paul like that.
I know, yeah.
It just feels as though I've come home for some reason. It's just, there you go, Nadgy Paul. So we're heading into our second divisional game matchup of the season. We're coming up against the Cardinals, and I've got to say, I don't know about you two, but I always feel uneasy about this game, and I think it's that stretch where they basically had our number, and even though they're not particularly a very good team at the moment, although they did beat the Cowboys, I still feel really uneasy about it. I do.
Yeah, same. We've lost too many games against them for whatever reason. Even when they weren't good, we still somehow lost games.
Well,
yeah.
I'm going to talk about one of those games. One of those games which I think everybody would like to forget. But I'm going to talk about it anyway because it's part of the history.
Yeah.
So, as with previous shows, Nadgy's going to go and do the offense report. Paul's going to do the defense. And all father time here, I'm stuck with the history. So I'm going to do the history and we'll kick off with the history. So it's like the History Channel list. I should get the music and the logo and do that when we start.
Yeah, we should have a jingle. I said it.
Something like that, a jingle, a history jingle. Okay, so the Cardinals have not always been in the NFC West. They actually moved over to the NFC West after the 2002 realignment. They started life as the Chicago Cardinals back in 1951 before moving to St. Louis in 1960, and then they finally settled in Arizona in 1987. I think the thing that makes me think of the Arizona Cardinals or St. Louis Cardinals more than anything else is Jerry Maguire, Rod Tidwell.
Oh yeah.
I always think of the Cardinals because of that movie.
That's right.
Not that I like the Cardinals. I hate them almost as much as the Rams, but not quite. I do kind of feel sorry for them every now and again. And to be honest, the 49ers have had their number quite often. We lead the series 34-29. We've won 5 out of the last 8. However, before that, there was a miserable run of 8 losses on the bounce. And during that run was one of the games I'm going to tell you about. So 7 games in total have gone to overtime. The 49ers have won 4 of those. The Cardinals have won 3. There's 2 particular games in mind which I think are infamous in 49er history. Not famous, not something you'd look back on fondly, but infamous. And those are the 2 games I'm going to kind of give you an overview of. So I think I'll start with the least painful one, or depending on what your perspective is, it might not be. But to me, it's the least painful one. And that was back in 2015. Colin Kaepernick goes and throws 4 picks during that game, including 2 pick sixes in the space of 2 minutes, as we were absolutely wiped out by the Cardinals. 47-7.
Was it on the first play of the game as well? He threw a pick six.
No. He threw an interception. He didn't throw a pick six.
Right.
The pick sixes came towards the end of the first quarter. I think roughly about 6 minutes. 6 minutes and 4 minutes. And he threw 2 pick sixes there. And that kind of, I think that heralded in a lot of the hatred that Cap suddenly started to get about the fact that he couldn't read a defense. And without the right play caller behind him, then he wasn't very good. And I think in modern history, that's probably one of the most infamous of the games. Now, the second one is one that I still think about to this day, and how it kind of changed the course, the direction of the 49ers for at least a decade. And that was back in 1999. Cardinals cornerback, I'm going to butcher his name, as I always do. Let me try. I did get this earlier on. Let me just have a think about how you say this. Aeneas Williams.
Good attempt.
I think it's Aeneas Williams. He sacked Steve Young, which resulted in Young suffering a concussion. And it actually eventually finished his career. He didn't return from that. And that was it. He retired, didn't play another down. And that, to me, that set in motion a period of 10, 11, 12 years where we were
dark times,
average to mediocre at best. We had those years with Garcia and Steve Mariucci. So I think that was only 3 or 4 seasons where we were still competitive. We were getting into the playoffs, but there was just something missing about the team. We'd gone so long with the likes of Joe Montana and Steve Young, 19, 20 years, where we were kind of blessed at quarterback. Jeff Garcia came in, and I think, if I'm honest, at the time, because he wasn't Steve Young, because he wasn't Joe Montana, I didn't really give him the credit that he deserved, because he was a decent quarterback, to be honest, but he wasn't either one of those two. So I didn't particularly look on him fondly like I used to with Young and Montana. It wasn't until after that I started looking fondly on Jeff Garcia and thinking, yeah, I wish we had somebody like that. But it is what it is. So that's the 2 infamous games I've got there. So believe it or not, the Cardinals and the 49ers played the very first ever International Series game when they faced off in Mexico in 2005. That is right, folks. The International Series actually began before it moved to the UK. Mexico was the first country to host a regular season game outside of the US. In 2003, the 49ers managed to get a little bit of a revenge. I'm saying revenge, this actually happened years and years before that 47-7 mauling. But in 2003, we did spank the Cardinals by 50 points to 14. Jeff Garcia threw for 252 yards and 4 touchdowns, and Kevin Barlow ran for 154, including a 46-yard touchdown run. There was quite a few players that played for both teams, but I'll be honest, none of them really stand out too much. There's a select few, and to be honest, they're all pretty much modern age players as well. Anquan Bolden, he was absolutely brilliant for both teams. Yeah. I think that's one thing that the Cardinals fans and us can agree on. Bolden was absolute gold. Yeah. He had such safe hands. And I keep on looking at Deebo Samuel because they are kind of built the same. They've got this stocky build. You think, well, he could have easily been a running back. But Anquan Bolden's hands were much better than Deebo. He was like, stick him all over his hands. Every time that ball went near him, he had that ball. Somebody else, another wide receiver that's played for both teams, Michael Crabtree. Some 49er fans look fondly back at Crabtree's period with us, but he soured for me pretty much straight away when he held out his rookie year. So he didn't start playing until I think it was mid-October, because he didn't agree with where he was drafted, and he wanted money for where he thought he should have been drafted. And I think it was Darius Beer got drafted by the Raiders, and everybody thought Crabtree was going to him. And again, it was one of these things. At the time, I thought, Jesus, Michael Crabtree's fallen to us here. Fantastic. There's one for you, Paul. And yeah, get that marked on there.
I love the honesty, Lee. I love the honesty.
I know. Couldn't help it. I feel really disappointed with myself now. And he fell to us, and I thought, this is great. He's going to be a great wide receiver. And then straight away, hold out. I'm not signing unless you give us more money. I want money for a number 3 pick. And I think we picked him either 11 or 12, something like that, quite far down in comparison. So yeah, he didn't really endear himself to me. And I kind of liked the nickname people had given him, Michael Cashtree instead of Crabtree. Somebody who is thought of in a better light is Garrison Hurst, running back. He played for both teams. A couple of offensive guards. Both of them I really liked when they were at the 49ers. Mikey Patty and Alex Boone. Alex Boone had quite a good story behind him. He ended up being on the practice squad for 4 or 5 seasons and never quite got into the team, never made that roster. And then finally he made the roster and he played unbelievable. You wouldn't believe that this guy had spent the last 4 or 5 seasons fighting tooth and nail to just get on the practice squad. It must have just clicked with him that 5th year, and bang, Everything he did was right. And you kind of couldn't believe that we're getting such good value from Alex Boone. And he played well for both teams. Mikey Patty, when he was drafted, he was a great guard.
Yeah.
From day one to the day he left, he was a quality value pick for us. He was unbelievable. Another guy that I kind of liked, Antoine Bethea. He's played for both teams. And I like Bethea because he came straight off the back of Dante Whitner.
Yeah.
And Dante Whitner, I really enjoyed it when he played for us, but I'll be honest, I thought he used to be a little bit dirty with the hits.
Yeah.
And I didn't like that. Yeah, I didn't like that much. Whereas Antoine Bethea used to hit just as hard, but he was clean. All of his tackles were clean. So I kind of liked Antoine Bethea. Enjoyed watching him play. And believe it or not, we've had quite a few kickers.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
Dozen kickers.
Yeah. I'm only going to list 3 of them. I think there was 7 in total. So Phil Dawson, Jordan Edney, and Andy Lee. All of those have played for both seasons. Phil Dawson actually finished his first season with us with the second most points and field goals in team history. And we all know about Jordan Edney and the infamous $7,500 fine for flipping off a Saints fan after the Saints had beat us back in 2007. I mean, how cool is that? I love the guy just for that alone. Andy Lee was another guy that we'd actually expended a draft pick on. I think he was a 5th rounder. Nobody could understand it at the time, but he was absolutely solid for us. He was solid for the Cardinals. And I think when he left, I understand why we let him go, because he was so good that we were going to have to pay him a lot more money than what we could afford. And that's when we went for Bradley Pinion. Bradley Pinion replaced Andy Lee. And that's history. I mean, Bradley Pinion stayed with us, 3-4 seasons, and then he ended up on the Buccaneers and got a Super Bowl ring. Can you believe that? Yeah. Okay, so on to the game on Sunday. Yep. Hopefully Nadgy and Paul have done the homework. So Nadgy's going to start off with the offence. Tell us a little bit about the Cardinals offence, and bear in mind, Nadgy, I want you to be kind about a certain Stanford wide receiver. Okay? I'm just putting that out there.
That's totally fair.
Michael Wilson is one hell of a player.
That's totally fair. Right. I've got the depth chart for people watching at home.
Oh, that's just upset us straight away, Nadgy. Right, get that off. Ilham Manning.
I know, Ilham Manning. I know.
And then you're going to go to defense when Paul starts talking, and you're going to upset us again.
Yeah. So we could start there if you want. They picked him up from our practice squad / cut from the camp. I mean, he's not playing, so. But yeah, I've had a look around, and I am kind of baffled by this offense. I'm not quite sure what they're trying to do. I think they're very balanced. They will just go to what works on the day. And they have a good variety of weapons. So if we want to start at the top, Marquise Brown, a super speedster from Baltimore that they acquired last year in a trade, I think. I can't remember exactly what was the trade about. But yeah, speedster, just pure speed, a small kind of wide receiver. So that's what they can do. They can stretch the field. Michael Wilson, bigger body, obviously a rookie, so we'll see what he's like over his career. So far, so good, I think. 7 catches for about 160 yards, although most of that was against the Cowboys on 2 catches. So we'll see. But yeah, I think he's a good. He'll be a good number 2 at the very least in his league for a while. And they've got Rondell Moore and DJ Humphries. Rondell Moore and Greg Dortch, who are kind of the slot guys, reliable. When Kyler Murray was playing, I guess we should have started there, and I'll get to it in a second. But when Kyler Murray was playing, it was kind of the safety valve, those 2 guys, quick out, quick slants, that kind of thing. They've obviously acquired Zach Ertz, who I don't think is as good as he used to. Or it's definitely not used as he used to, and he's definitely not had the impact late in his career that he used to with Philadelphia. But he can still be a threat, and definitely is a threat in the end zone, so that's a short game. And the running back, they have James Conner, who I don't need to remind you all people, has hurt us pretty bad in the past over the last couple of years. He seems to be playing really well against us for some reason. So that's another name that we will look at. Do you guys want to talk about the offensive weapons before we talk QB and caliber and all that? Anything to add? Anything scares you particularly?
I was going to say, Nadgy, when I was doing my homework, I noticed last week that they were using Rondale Moore similar to how we use Deebo Samuel. So it
A little
wasn't
bit,
as
yeah.
trickery, but there was a couple of times when he literally got the ball in the backfield. I think
Yeah.
one was his touchdown. It was just a straight line.
Yeah.
And Dobbs, believe it or not, we talk about the eye test on this show. Dobbs hasn't turned the ball over.
He hasn't yet.
Comfortable in this offense, like you said, Nadgy. And Lee already mentioned it. We were going to say how many times we could mention the Cardinals beat the Cowboys last week. And if you go back and watch that tape, they deserved to win that game.
Yeah, they played well.
And they played well. But I think you're right. Hollywood Brown's speed worries me. And I knew Lee would talk about number 14. So I'm going to hand over graciously to Mr. Gowland to talk about his man crush from Stanford.
So ever since I saw Michael Wilson play a good few years ago now, back in 2019, he struck me as the type of wide receiver that the 49ers like. He's very good after the catch. The only downside I had with him, and this was going back to 2019, like I said, so I mean it's pretty much his sophomore year, I think it was. His get off wasn't that good from the line of scrimmage, but once he did get off, his route running was great.
Top speed's good. Yeah.
His hands were gold, and if he was to catch in front of a defender and has to go past the defender, he was strong enough and big enough to bully his way past that defender. So he was all about yards after the catch. And he put up a really good game when I saw him back in 2019. So, and obviously because I watched Stanford, I kind of concentrated on Michael Wilson quite a lot. And every time he played, he impressed us. I had injury worries about him, but the injuries were the type of injuries that weren't like a muscular sporting type injury. Don't know if I make myself clear. It's pure accident. Pure accident. He broke his arm because he fell awkwardly, and he did something else that you wouldn't really attribute to
football,
to not having like a body to play sports.
Yeah.
Unlike Jason Verrett, you know.
Yeah. Oh, Jimmy.
With the yeah. But yeah, I mean, I wanted us to pick him and to see him go. I think what was it?
Third round.
Yeah. No, I'm trying to think how many picks. I think it was only about 8 picks in front of us.
Yeah.
That the Cardinals picked him up. I think it was 88, and I was absolutely good at.
I mean, I don't think we would have picked him considering we picked Jack Moody.
Yeah,
I think our sight was set on something else.
Yeah.
But that's the problem with the draft. Who knows? He'll probably end up with us at some point if the Cardinals are rebuilding next year again.
Possibly.
So obviously, let's talk elephant in the room. Kyle Murray is on PUP. He doesn't play. He's been a thorn in our side for a while now. They're always comparing to Marvin the Martian from the Warner Bros. Cartoons because of his bigger helmet thing. But yeah, he's not playing, and we got Joshua Dobbs, who came from Cleveland via trade really late as well. I think it was like week 3 or 4, the preseason. They snatched him up, and to be fair to him, he's not made any mistakes, but he also hasn't lit up the scoreboard, and you can easily argue that they haven't played a good team yet. So I'm fully confident that our defense can absolutely.
Yeah, I think I'm going to agree with what Paul's just about to say here, even though I don't know what he's going to say.
I'm going to throw the challenge flag. I was going to say, Nadgy, the Cardinals could have easily been 3-0, and we talked about explosive players on this show last week, and where Dobbs hasn't lit the scoreboard up against the Cowboys, they had at least 8 explosive plays, which is defined as a pass play at least 20 yards. And I think you're right, Dobbs has come into this offense late, but Shanahan did an interview, I think it was yesterday or the day before, and he was speaking very highly of Dobbs. Now, I think for us as Niners fans, it's good that they beat the Cowboys because obviously we're smiling. But equally, I think a week ago, we would have just said, Cardinals preview? Nah, let's just go straight over to next week. And I think the team have got that mentality as well. So, yeah, I just wanted to throw the challenge flag there. So I'll let Lee jump in.
That's totally fine, but also, I'm going to ask you this question. If we have 8 explosive plays, how many points do you think we score?
Oh, I agree. I'm not saying the beating
50
us,
plus.
but I'm just saying
right?
it's.
Yeah.
I think the Cardinals, people were thinking they were going to tank, but if you go back and watch their games, they were very close.
I agree. But they've played the Giants and the Seahawks. It's not like, and the Cowboys
Commanders,
are.
the Giants.
What I was quite surprised to see is that Joshua Dobbs' quarterback stats are almost identical to Brock Purdy's.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. He's played well. Yeah. You can't take that away from him. So it's going to take a good defense to actually show what he looks like. But I firmly believe our defense is going to be too much for them to handle. And we are going to see the reason why he's not a starter in this league, and that's why he got traded away. I'm confident. This is what I'm trying to say. I don't want to, put him down, but also he plays for the Cardinals, so why not?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is obviously that the Cardinals have just come off the back of beating the Cowboys. They now face us, and then next week we face the Cowboys.
Yep.
So it's almost as though in the space of like 2 weeks, 3 Sundays, we're going to get a feel for what the differences are between ourselves and the Cowboys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we're all expecting the Cowboys to be there or thereabouts towards the end of the season, making the playoffs. And looking at what happened last weekend, it's the first doubt that sprung into people's minds, thinking, well, hang on here, are the Cowboys actually going to make the playoffs? Because they've just lost one of the biggest playmakers on defense, Trevon Diggs, for the season. He's gone. But
keep that for the Dallas preview.
I'll keep that for the review preview. But yeah, so I think it's going to be a decent marker, but not 100% accurate marker.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, again, I look at the trenches and I look at their offensive line, and it's a makeshift one. They've just built this basically this year again and drafted, out of Cleveland, New York, Atlanta. The only guy that was here last year was DJ Humphries. They've got a rookie at right tackle. And we know what that does when Bosa and Hargrave and Armstead are in front of it. Daniel Jones didn't have a chance. I don't think Joshua Dobbs is going to have a chance. This is what I was alluding to, as well as he's played so far. And also, sometimes when you have nothing to lose, you play really well. There's no, the Cardinals, there's zero expectation on them. Everybody knows they're tanking somehow, and their head coach is probably a 1 year and done. So they're just going out there and just having fun, and they're playing pretty well. But I just don't think that's going to happen against us, unless I'm obviously mistaken. And I know where you guys are coming from. You're a bit scared of that, skeptical about and the Cardinal history, which we just learnt about. And I would be too, but not with Purdy and not with that defense.
I've tried reverse psychology, Nadgy, because I remember Kyler Murray not playing and Colt McCoy coming in with eyes and looking like Tom Brady. And we all came on the preview show and we were like, we're smashing the Cardinals, Colt McCoy. But no, I agree with what you're saying. I just think the win over the Cowboys last week has brought them to national attention because, like you said, a lot of people were saying the Cowboys were better than us. The Cowboys were going to be the top team in the NFC. And to see the Cardinals beat them and beat them well, you go back and watch the game tape, it was pretty impressive, to be fair.
When you talk about Colt McCoy beating us, wasn't that the same game that James Conner had an absolute belter of a game?
He did, yeah.
And I think it was more James Conner beat us than Colt McCoy.
I think if I seem to remember very well, I think it was more Jimmy G being dreadful than anything else.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're probably right there. But James Conner was running so well that he opened
they were running really well.
Yeah, he opened up the pass for Colt McCoy.
Wasn't it a game where Mooney Ward was injured and Dre Greenlow wasn't playing? And maybe even Armstead didn't play that game? It's possible.
No, I think this was before Mooney Ward. I think...
I think that's the year Mooney Ward, but he was injured. It was like early on in the season. And I can't remember.
I'm sure people let us know. No, I agree. I don't think they're going to obviously...
But I think you guys are right. Ultimately, it's a divisional game. They're always slightly different than the normal average game. There's a little bit more to it. But I'll be amiss to not go with full confidence, especially that we've had 10 days to rest. They've had 7. All that kind of thing that can make the little difference. But so far, I think that's all I can say. I think they'll probably feed James Conner a lot to start with to see where that takes them. But if they have to chuck it downfield, they can do that too. So it's going to take a good game for us to beat them. It's the NFL. You always have to play well. Otherwise, you lose.
Yeah. I'll agree with you on that, Nadgy.
So that's me wrapping up. Unless you guys want to talk about other thing. I really like Trey McBride, the tight end, second guy on there. He was very good at college, and he's ramping up as well. But shall we move on to the
I think there's a bunch of players on there who basically don't have anything to lose.
Yeah.
And it kind of helps you to take the pressure off, and you do have a better game.
Yeah. That's right.
Right, Mr. Hope.
Defense.
Have you done the defense?
Yeah,
have you done them justice?
Well, Nadgy's putting the defense starters there on the screen, the depth chart for people watching. So when I looked at the defense, Lee, I took a note out of your history book and I went and had a look because Gannon, as Nadgy referred to there, first-year head coach. People may remember him from the Eagles, defensive coordinator. So there was a lot of talk. Was it him? Was it the players he had at the Eagles? Now, he brought with him Nick Rallis, who is the youngest coordinator in the NFL. He's only 30 years of age, the Cardinals defensive coordinator. Now, like we have Kyle Shanahan, who's an offensive coach, obviously the Cardinals have brought in a defensive kind of minded head coach. And I think he works quite closely. So you would argue which one of them's calling the scheme. Now, on paper, chaps, it's still a 3-4 scheme, which was a surprise to the Cardinals fans that I spoke to on Twitter when I was doing my homework, because the assumption was when they brought Rallis in that he would shift from the 3-4 base scheme, which the team has pretty much used since 2007. And interestingly enough, Lee, history lesson for you, the only year the Cardinals didn't use that scheme was in 2018 when a certain Steve Wilkes was the head coach. So I thought I'd throw that nugget in there because Wilkes may be coming back for a bit of a revenge game, Nadgy, setting this defense up against the offense. Now, I say the way they look at the scheme, Gannon's Eagles defense on paper was a 4-3 scheme, but the players he had at his disposal at the Eagles, we've got one of them for us, Hargrave. So what's interesting is, unlike the Giants, the Eagles last year and the Cardinals this year, they very rarely blitz. You're looking at like between 10 and 15%. And interestingly, the Cardinals tend to copy us. They want that front four to get the pressure. The linebackers are featuring quite highly in this review because they're number 7, who picked off Dak Prescott. He's their ringleader. He's their kind of...
What's his name?
Kazir White.
7? Oh, Nadgy.
Sorry.
I was setting him up, man.
Team game. White, number 7. So he's their kind of Fred Warner. He's their flag bearer. Now, it was interesting to see that half of the defensive players this year are new to the team. So like you said, Nadgy, on offense and defense, it's a fairly new team coming in. From a scheme standpoint, they like to play a lot of split safety shells on the back end of the defense, which is Gannon's speciality. It's something he's stolen from his tutelage under Mike Zimmer, which he first crossed path back in 2007 when Gannon was a quality control coach for the Falcons and Zimmer was the coordinator. So if you go back and look at their two defenses, it's very similar, the scheme that he plays. So what surprised me, they've got a heavy dosage of press man coverage in that scheme. But like us last year, they tended to play this bend but not break mentality. So when I watched the game tape against the Cowboys, because they lost the first 2 games, as Nadgy said, they weren't playing anybody. I didn't focus on that. I decided that I'll look and see what they do with the Cowboys. When they played that zone coverage, the point was to keep things in front of the defense and not allow the explosive plays. So the Cowboys moved the ball quite well until they got into the red zone. And it was very scarily like watching us last year, shutting the door in that red zone. I think the Cowboys scored on their first drive. Uncle Rico scored. And then after that, they didn't score a touchdown. And the Cardinals defense made the adjustments. Now, they did suffer a couple of injuries. And there's a name that I'm looking for who... I know Buda Baker's not playing.
Yeah, he's on IR.
Zavan Collins, who's one of their better players, he left the game against Dallas. So I don't know if we've got an update against that, Nadgy. I was going to ask you chaps on there.
I was going to say, I didn't see him on the injury report.
He definitely left the game. And Let's Talk Sports have a Cardinals fan, so I sent him an email and I was like, any chance of some hints and tips? And he was just like, you're going to smash us. But then he gave us a few little nuggets, which is what I'm referring to here, because he was one who said he's very surprised that they haven't changed the scheme and he's very surprised to see them not blitzing as much. And they're actually in the bottom half of the league in pressures and sacks, which with our offense rolling into town was music to my ears. Now, as I said earlier, nearly half of the defensive starters are new to the team, and it takes time to gel. Structurally, as I've said, they feature a lot of two deep safeties with a heavy dose of zone coverage, which I think Kyle Shanahan is going to eat all day on Sunday. You play zone coverage against Kyle Shanahan with his motions with CMC. Now, what I'll finish off with, Lee, is the Cowboys reached the red zone on 5 of their 6 final possessions last Sunday, and the Cardinals limited them to 1 touchdown and 13 total points. And at the time, Nadgy, they had no Buda Baker. Collins wasn't on the field. They were missing an inside linebacker, Barnes, who apparently is one of their better players, and the safety, Jalen Thompson. So missing some of their better players, but still shutting Dallas out of the red zone bodes well if you're a Cardinals fan, not so well if you're a Cowboys fan. Now, in their 3 games, they're actually 3rd overall in the NFL. They've had 11 sacks. They've had 3 interceptions. So interestingly, they've won the turnover battle in each of their games. We always talk on this show, you win the turnover battle, you tend to win the game.
You should win games, yeah.
You should, yeah. They've had 2 fumble recoveries, 1 return for a touchdown, 16 tackles for a loss, and they've had 23 pass breakups. Now, you're likely, from my source, he said, the 6 linebackers they've got on the roster, they mixed them up. He said, I couldn't tell you, apart from White, which one's going to play. It tends to be particular teams that they scheme for. It's a divisional game. I said earlier, Nadgy, they lost to the Commanders 20-16. They lost to the Giants 31-28, which I think they blew quite a big lead in that game, from what I remember. But they pulled off a stunning 28-16 upset victory over the Cowboys. So that, for me, the true difference between this game and the previous losses against the Cowboys, is the defense stood up. They were tough. They didn't bend. They didn't break. But that, for me, chaps, is the defense. I'm looking forward to seeing our offense rip it to shreds. But any questions, please feel free to jump in.
Well, not really a question, but just point out that number 28 there, Quantrez Knight, is the other reason why I don't like having this
used to be
this
for us.
roster up there. Yeah, not only that, I've actually got a signed helmet in the display case behind us. Absolutely gutted when we lost him. Absolutely gutted. I thought he was going to be a really good player, and I'm quite surprised he's down there as a safety, not a cornerback.
Yeah, that's interesting, actually.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
It might be something that they've seen, their coaching staff have seen, and thought, you know what, he'll play better as a safety.
Yeah,
I honestly believe he's going to have a really good career. He looked, to me,
I think so.
Brilliant.
I think it's the case.
Interesting thing as well that I meant to mention, is Pollard ran for 123 yards. So they did allow 185 rush yards. It was just in the red zone that they were good. And I believe they're big and physical on defense, and they're well coached, given that they've got a defensive head coach and they've got a new coordinator. But watching the game tape, I'm not overly worried. But I know Nick was fuming, Lee, with the Manning pick, and I don't think he liked the Knight pickup either. Maybe he's got some signed merch hidden away in his collection.
Yeah, but both those picks I didn't like at all. I was gutted that we lost both of those.
It happens. It happens.
It happens, yeah.
So injury-wise, because we forgot to do this. Please, Gareth, come back.
What are you trying to say, Nadgy? What are you trying to say?
The hosting is great. It's just that we forget things, because that's what he does.
He's organised.
Exactly. So James Conner is questionable. Obviously, there's just Wednesday practice because we're recording Thursday. But it's a back injury. God knows where that will take him. And then the linebacker, Kearns Barnes, did not practice, finger injury, and Jonathan Ledbetter, there at the end, is also questionable. Keep an eye on those, especially James Conner if he doesn't play.
I think on the offensive line as well, Nadgy, they had a couple of injuries, and I'm sure they've just signed someone to the practice squad and then activated him a couple of days later.
Oh, that's not good news for you if you have to do that against us.
Roy Lopez. So I think they picked him up a couple of days ago, and they've had to move him to the 53-man squad. And like you said, I think Collier and Watkins are both possible season-ending bicep injuries. And Josh Woods has missed 2 games, so I think the walking wounded was the end of the email I got from my good friend over at the States, who's a Cardinals fan.
Yeah,
So we go into this game as incredible 14-point favourites.
Oh boy, that's a lot.
That is a lot. And believe it or not, the over-under is only 44.
Okay.
So I'm guessing at 14-point favourites and over-under of 44, they're not expecting the Cardinals to score very many points.
No,
That's the only thing I can take from that.
That's crazy.
And with that news there, so there is something. There is something I kind of missed out of the history again, and it's going to involve this next part. So I don't mind saying I'm going to go last with the predictions.
Not
But
that
you
it's
Who wants to go
competitive.
first? Who wants to go first?
You have to go first. One of you two has to go first because you're on the top.
Well,
You're right, Paul has to
technically,
go first.
Gareth went first because he said
Gareth
this
did
on the
go
last
first.
show, didn't he?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
if you
yeah.
remind everyone who's listening, Gareth did, for clarity, he did say on the last show. But I will go next because Lee wants to be ultra competitive. But what was Gareth's score prediction again?
It was 37-17.
Yeah. So he's gone over the over-under then for that score, isn't he? Gareth
Yeah,
just,
well
just
over.
smashed that one.
You can put it on the screen, Lee. I've shared it. And right, yeah, one of you two go.
Well, my score prediction won't surprise anybody. Purdy with his offense, we're definitely scoring 30 points. But I'm going to go for a 33-10 victory for the 49ers on Sunday.
Very nice, very nice. I like it. Go on, Lee.
I was going to go 44-0, but I decided that was just a bit too bold.
What about a bold
Right.
prediction? Let's not forget a bold prediction.
We'll do it
let's
after
get
we've
the-
done the
Yeah,
scores.
let's get the scores
Sounds
out
good.
of the way first. Okay, then. So I'll go next. I'll give Nadgy a little bit of a head start here. So Gareth's prediction wasn't a million miles away from mine.
Yeah,
And I'm going with a 38-10 victory.
38-10. Very nice. Victory. And boom. All right. Me to go. I want to keep it simple. We scored 30 points every week. So we're going to win 30-14. And that's bang on the over-under. There we go.
Sorry, what was that? 33?
No,
To
30.
40.
Bang on.
30.
The same
30
amount of
to
points we
40.
score every game. That's what we do. 30 points.
All right. Fair enough.
Imagine how awesome that actually would be if we actually win every single game. We just scored 30
I
points.
think-
30 every game.
Yeah.
That would be insane.
So a little bit of the history that I neglected to share with you is the last two times the 49ers have played the Cardinals, they've scored 38 points both times.
Oh,
The last result was 38-13. The result before that was 38-10.
now he says it. Now he says it.
I know, yeah. But the last game
Forgot
was,
about it.
that was the Mexico game, wasn't it? The last.
Yeah, it
that
was actually. Oh yeah, what
Yeah.
a game that was.
Yeah.
What a game that was. All right, some bold prediction, gents. Go on, Paul. You go first. Bold prediction
Well,
Sunday.
We've got two quarterbacks coming in this game with 0 interceptions, and that is going to end on Sunday because Joshua Dobbs is going to get picked off 3 times, and we're returning one of those for a pick 6 from our boy Fred Warner, 54. He's getting a pick 6 on Sunday.
Nice. I like that. Lee, what have you got? He's thinking.
Yeah. What have I got? Thinking.
I was gonna go exactly the same, so that's boring. I'm gonna
Great
go the other.
minds.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm gonna go the other way then. I think CMC will score 3 touchdowns.
He breaks a record if he does. Breaks Jerry's record if he scores a
It
touchdown.
does. I mean, he will, right? It's
Yeah, CMC.
you know
baby.
it's gonna happen.
So I am very, very similar to Nadgy here, but I'm going to say George Kittle will score 3 touchdowns
Oh, nice. I like it.
and have over 150 yards receiving.
Very nice. I also think we're gonna see more of Sam Darnold.
in a good
in a-
way, not
in
a bad way.
No, in a good way. Yeah.
Clarify that.
Absolutely. And also we will see, what's his name? Clayton Tune, who's the backup for them. The
I
QB
thought you were going
backup.
to say Jordan Mason. I was thinking the Jordan Mason
Oh yeah,
game.
we'll see Jordan Mason. We'll see Jordan Mason. That's it. What is he doing?
I'm just writing down the bold predictions because we always forget them.
Yeah, of
Just
course.
want to say as well, Lee, we want to put this on record. Mine and Lee's competition is on this podcast only. And I'm defending my good friend Lee Gowland because his interview with Ty Alston, if you haven't watched that, was awesome. Ty, absolutely love what you're doing for the group, buddy.
Yeah,
but
that
Lee,
was great.
it only counts on this show. I don't care what Gareth says. Nadgy, I'm not sure which side of the fence you sit on, but the 49er Faithful UK Live and other podcasts don't count. The competition is on this show only.
Correct.
Fantastic idea.
And the way it's going, you're going to win hands down.
I'll get too excited. I haven't got a post-it note here which says "Do not say," and I'm not going to say the words.
You should do that, Lee, I think.
Right, so public service announcements. I think there's only really the one. Yeah, there's only really the one. So over the weekend, the website for the watch party seemingly went down. And luckily enough, obviously, because I was over in the States, I was speaking to Nick about this. And it's because we reached the soft target of 400 people applying for tickets. So what's happened is we've actually moved to a bigger venue. It's a 10-minute walk from the existing venue. It's the same chain, and that's why we could easily move. I'm not entirely sure what the new limit is. I think it might be 500 rather than 400. And that hasn't been advertised as yet, and that was to give the 49er Faithful UK an opportunity for those who missed out to go and get the tickets. And I think that'll be advertised from tomorrow, which is probably the same time you're actually listening to this. So don't believe us, it's actually going to be advertised from today, unless you're going to listen to this on Saturday, and then it was 2 days ago. And we can continue going down this rabbit hole, making scenarios up like this, or I can shut up and move on. And the only other one is the gold mine. So the gold mine, we now have a definite 37 confirmed. Yeah. We've got 3 maybes, and those 3 maybes, in my mind, are pretty much nailed on to be confirmations within the next week.
Cool gold mine.
Which means we've got 40 people in the gold mine. All members of the 49er Faithful UK. So the only thing that's left for me to do, after I emailed Nick Clark today, and hopefully he comes back with the dimensions tomorrow, is to purchase the giant flag, which we're going to be flying over at Levi's. And it's going to cost a lot less than what I expected it to cost. I can't remember where. I must have priced it up from the original supplier, because it was coming out at something like £450. But when I've gone on to my new supplier, who I'm now happy with the colours, it's good enough. I think it was only coming out about 170, so it's significantly reduced. So yeah, that's going to be interesting to see that flying. I think Nick was definitely excited when I told him about the idea. It's the type of thing they definitely want, because it's going to get the crowd up. Unless they all hate us Brits, and then it's not.
Well, I will say on that note, Lee, obviously we've had a few members out with the games, and the flag is well received. Actually, we forgot to give Nicholas Parra a shout out. He's told me he's at the Cowboys game. He's flying the flag. And I've got a photo of Nick Clark with Andy Smith on the field of the flag, which I've shared on Instagram. There's a couple of players who've signed the flag. So Andy and Ord, who are out there, have been flying the flag. So I think the colour scheme helps, Lee. And I just wanted to say, I know there's a lot of talk of the meetups. There's a lot of talk of the gold mine. But we're a community. And like you said on the last show, Lee, if you've got a flag, fly it wherever. We want to see pictures. I think Jake Gabai was in Tel Aviv a couple of weeks ago. I shared that on the Instagram page. Nick Clark shared that one. So
the goal is to try and beat Wayne, which is impossible.
That's not going to happen.
Unless some astronaut puts it on the moon or something. It's just not going to happen, is it?
There's Wade,
you're going to have
there's Eric Oregard, and then there's the rest of us.
And,
like
then
just...
and then the normal people. Yeah, absolutely. I think there's one more thing, PSA, though. Like, if you're coming to the gold mine and you know chants, let's write them down, prepare them, because we're going to need some chants. So
the interesting thing was, on last Thursday night, and I still can't believe this is a week ago since I was there, but last Thursday night when Nick was going through the do's and the don'ts, this is what our expectations are. One of the things he did say was, we want you to bring a fan flavour to this. So, I mean, the defence is the normal chant that we go on, but if you've got anything else that you think will get the crowd riled up, go for it. So that's kind of set the bar for us to go out there in November, because obviously we already have one or two songs which
from
we
the
know
watch
we
party.
can, and we know it got people jumping up and down and bouncing. Which in a little way has me concerned, because obviously it's temporary seating, and if we jump up and down on that platform, I'm not sure what's going to happen. We might have to give that a soft test just after Nick's gone through a safety briefing. So actually we'll do it before he goes through his safety briefing, and then he can't get into trouble. He can just turn around and say, well, you know what, they all went through the floor before I give the safety briefing. Otherwise I'd have told them not to do that. So to get out of jail card free for Nick. But I think there's a good chance if we can get people to follow us in this chant, and it's straightforward. Yeah. Then this is going to be special.
I've got this vision of. I remember in France the football thing, especially in Marseille, the two behind the goal thing used to sing at each other. I don't know if they do this in England, but they would say one bit of the song and then the other side would sing the rest, and then back to the one side, and I have this vision of us starting a Debo chant when it goes Debo, Debo, D in the whole stadium, and that would be amazing if we could achieve this. I mean, it's going to be very hard to achieve because it's a bit of a foreign concept for Americans, but something like that would be really, really
cool. We can
cool.
Always try. We can
absolutely try it.
And you know, the best place to try that, or the best time to try that, is just before kick-off.
Yeah.
After the players have been introduced and before the game starts. Because if we started, then if you can hear it catching on, then you know during the game when we're supposed to be making
you just
noise,
have to start it.
Yeah, we could try it and get everybody going.
So on the note of the watch party, Lee, I have had a couple of messages from people asking about the tickets, and I hadn't said anything until your announcement, but you do have to register for a ticket. So obviously on the night, if you don't have a ticket, you're not getting in. I've downloaded the 49ers app. Can't believe I didn't have that on my phone, and the ticket shows there quite easily. Quite an easy process to do.
It's free.
And yeah, like you said, Nadgy, it's free. So I believe.
So what I'd also say is, because obviously we hit that soft target of 400 people registering for tickets, and I'm fully expecting to hit the 500 target as well, which will then close the website. I mean, nobody can register any tickets. We're not expecting everybody to turn up. I think it's going to be a lot like the Leeds meetup, where quite a number of people wanted to register to give themselves the opportunity because it was free. It wasn't costing them anything, and then they didn't bother to turn up. Yeah. The NFC Championship game, I think we had a soft target of 400, which we met, and I think there was about 180, 190 people turned up, so a little under half. So what I'll say is, if you're in London because of the International Series game and you weren't able to get a ticket, I think it is still worthwhile coming around, having a look to see how full it is, to see if you can actually get in, because there is not a chance that you will be admitted to the to the bar. And even if you can't, 10 minutes up the road is the original venue, who are also going to be showing NFL, so you can see it in there.
I was going to say, Lee, in the group event, I think it says 67 going. And I know not everybody's on Facebook, but if you are going, please do click going on the event. And what we're trying to do as well, like what you said earlier, Nadgy, like, for example, the gold mine, there's an event page in the Facebook group and people are sharing stories in there. And I guess that's the same with the London meet. And I know there's going to be people in London all weekend. Some are going to the game. Some are just coming down for our watch party. But I'm so excited that on the calendar I've got the watch party, got the gold mine. So I make no apologies. If you don't like to see it on my social media, I won't be offended if you mute me. But I trust you, there's going to be about 3,755 posts when we get in San Francisco. Sorry, John.
I'm really looking forward to seeing how they make it a UK feel.
Yeah, me too.
I believe that is definitely on the cards.
Yeah,
lots of red and gold.
Yeah, it would be red jerseys in London as well. So
red.
I think we should go for wear red, and then obviously go from there.
I mean, wear whatever you want, but red is better. Red.
Definitely. Right, guys, if that is it, all that's left for me to say is thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you to everyone that listens to the show. Please remember to rate and subscribe to both the podcast and the YouTube channel, because that is so helpful to us. It's unbelievable. Comment as well. Stick a comment on there, because it all goes towards the algorithm, pushes up into other people's feeds, and it means we get more viewers, more downloads, and stuff like that. Really good things might happen in the future. Might not, but They might. Right, guys. Bang, bang, Niner gang.
Good night, Niners.
We love the San Francisco 49ers deep in the heart. Like Joe Montana in the corner, D. Clark. Garrison Hurst, stiff farm going 99. Don't get it twisted, one and all with prime time. John Taylor, Jerry Rice down.